You're listening to Zoom the TBT with Charge and Hayner.
This is Zoom the TBT as I'm bopping along to the music. I'm my co-host, Charge, and we're here for our penultimate, our second to last show of the cycle. Charge, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing great tonight. What a week of games. This has probably been the most entertaining TBT to date, at least for me. It's just been a blast going to Butler. These games have been wild, and we'll jump into some of these stories of I guess they call it the final few on the bracket challenge. So final four, final few, whatever we're gonna pen this. But it's exciting, and we got some great teams. Got some alumni. Got the Everline story. It's going to be a great final few.
Can't say Final Four because we don't want to get sued by the NCAA. I'm pretty sure that shit's trademarked, my friend. So we got to keep it pretty delicate here. What'd you say?
The final few is what they have listed under the Zell bracket. So we'll go with that.
And also, just because we're going back to our roots here, we'll bring this back for.
Look at you!
Not the whole show, but we will bring the hat back just for a little bit because that was requested by somebody. Actually, we're not. Fuck this hat entirely. Let's be honest here. Screw the hat. Okay, so let's get into this. So, first of all, what are you wearing today? I mean, we try to be neutral here, but pop your shirt a bit. Holy hell!
We are repping Everline hard today, and like I said, it's just been an incredible story. Like I said, everything about the TBT this year has been kicked up a notch. The games, the alumni teams, the OGs kind of pushing through. So yeah, I've got to represent Everline. Had a blast hanging out with the guys and some of the team down here in Indy, and so story. I mean, going back to 2016, Matt Mitchell's probably the first person I ever met to talk TBT about, and so I always had a fondness of Everline and their team, and they're back here again after a while.
Yeah, it's funny too because it's a great story, and the thing we really like about stories like Everline, and that's not again we have some great alumni teams. We have Houston, the Forever Cougs. We've got some great teams coming, and we really love. Laughlin has been probably one of the biggest stories this tournament, coming out hard, and of course Carmen's Crew's triumphant return to the national finals is a huge story itself. So we've got four really great teams. But the thing that's really great about Everline is they go back to that original ethos of the TBT. The TBT has grown past it to some degree, but it still is your teams, your tournament at its core. And no one embodies that better than the guys from Everline. And what's really funny is it would be great if we could ask them some questions tonight, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that be fun?
Absolutely. I mean, they're busy, they're traveling, but yeah, if we had them on, fantastic.
Well, what's really funny is I bet if I push two buttons, oh my God, they're here. We have Jake Hirschman and Matt Mitchell, co-GMs of Everline Drive. Gentlemen, how are you guys doing tonight?
Fantastic. Doing great. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, I love watching the rep as usual. And one of our favorite teams. We've always loved having you guys on. And what a great story, first of all. So let's just kind of get into this. I'm going to ask you the first question. So a 6th seed, we've seen the wonderful people at Team Arkansas complain a little about this, saying that you guys were underseeded, which in retrospect seems like the right call. But having said that, so first of all, how hard was it to get this team to come together? Was there a point where you guys doubted you would have a team that is good enough to reach Philadelphia?
I mean, I think when we were putting the team together, from, let's say, January up until mid-May, we were confident we had a team that could win it all. The last week or two, we had a couple guys sign in Puerto Rico, a couple guys from the Summer League became doubtful to come and play with us, especially for the first couple games. And we got down to 5 or 6 players. It got pretty drastic. We're very strongly considering pulling out of the tournament altogether, but me, Matt, Zach Hopp, and Vinny Vitrone really came together and recruited hard for the last 72 hours and put together a team that ultimately ended up probably being better top to bottom than the team we had in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty quick go.
Yeah, no, yeah. So the people we're talking AJ Slaughter, Johnny O'Brien, we're talking Devin Kennedy, and so some of what you expect to be the stars, Jake Stevens, who actually is here now, which we'll talk about him a little bit more. And so to fill that kind of gap, and I know you guys were just scouring everywhere. So you're DMing people, you're checking the local circuit, get a guy like Mike Girdle on the team.
You're texting podcasters. You're texting podcasters.
finding the list of free agents. So, when did you first realize that this team, you know what, it's been kind of scrapped together? But what? And I'll ask Matt. What did you realize that this team's going to be special?
Yeah, I think, like Jake said, early on, we knew the core we had, we felt really confident in. And so even though we lost a few of those pieces, the ones that remained, we still felt like were really good pieces to build around. And so the few guys we had to add, we just wanted to make sure that they would fit kind of the mold of what we were trying to build. And so super fortunate to get the last 3 or 4 or 5 guys there in the last 48 hours. And just in those conversations with those guys, like literally, hey, the deadline's tomorrow. Do you want to play? You got to fly out the next day. And they're like, I'm all in. Let's do it. Like that to me was pretty validating that we have the right kind of guys. They really wanted to be here, which I think was important. But really that first practice when we showed up in Fishers, Indianapolis area, we got over to the facility and had our guys out on the floor. And like for the first practice with a whole bunch of new faces, just the chemistry, the guys talking, getting along, we were kind of looking at each other like, man, I really like this group. And so even so, you don't know what you're really going to get until you get through that first game. And so I think that's where I think we realized kind of battling some back and forth in that Arkansas game, having to overcome the deficit and pull that one out. I think when we got through that game for sure, it was like we can do something here pretty big, and we were excited about what we had.
Now, Jake, going to you for a second, I do want to talk about this a bit because obviously you guys have had recently some tougher early exits. You guys had a few decent runs, and then you had, of course, the 2018 run, which was magical. You guys almost won the whole thing. It was 2018, correct? I got the year right. And then, so you guys have had some early exits recently. First of all, does this feel as good as your 2018 team? And is the chemistry sort of coming together where there's a legitimate chance for you guys to walk out with the money?
Yeah, I'd say it definitely feels just as good, if not better than 2018. Like 2018 was incredible. It was really our first taste of success at all. And we were just kind of like riding high the whole time. And I think Matt and I have a different appreciation for the run this time. Not only the group of guys who have gelled together so quickly, but like, when we lost the last 2 years in the first round, it's like that thought starts to creep in, like, will we ever get back? And like, now that this team is winning and like we're here, like, not only do we think we can win, like, honestly, like, we expect and believe this team will win it. But I think I speak for both of us when I say, like, there's definitely a newfound appreciation for how difficult this is. Because, like, not that any team can do it, but, like, you can have a hot year and, like, get to the finals. Like, that year-over-year success and getting it back in multiple Final Fours, like, that's extremely difficult. And, like, teams like 23/Heartfire or Overseas Elite or Marquette that have done it over and over again, like, this gives you a different kind of appreciation for those kind of teams that can keep doing it.
Yeah, so some of the players that stand out for you guys, obviously Anthony Clemens, Goodwin, Tyler Stone, but I think the names that been getting the most buzz has been Jake Stevens. So obviously he played summer league for however number of days, played well in summer league, and this guy was eager to take a flight, get there at 2 a.m. And so, what's Jake's presence meant to the team? Obviously, unselfish guy coming off the bench. It doesn't seem like it's caused any ripples, but how important was Jake showing up to the team and the morale of the team?
I think that was huge. I mean, part of the, I shared earlier about the recruiting process. You talk to guys, you get to hear kind of where they're coming from. The first time we talked to Jake, we knew, like, man, this is a perfect guy for the team. We have great relationship with his coach there in DC, Cody Toppert, who couldn't say enough good things about him. But until we got to actually see it and experience it firsthand, I don't know if we knew exactly what to expect. Although literally at like midnight the night before he's coming, they finished their last game. He's like, I just want to come. I want to play. Like, it's not about the money. I haven't been there for the first few games. So, like, I'll come off the bench. I don't even need to get a piece of the winnings. And we're like, dude, no, if you come, like, you're a part of this team. And so just that attitude, how he came into it. And then from that very first practice was probably talking and encouraging and communicating better than anybody on the court. And so that went a long way, I think, for getting the other guys to recognize, okay, this is a big piece, and we're going to bring him in with open arms, and he's fit right in.
Jake, where are the other Jake's Pumas? Size 18. He's owed $2,000. What is going on?
I don't know if these Pumas exist. We've brought up the TBT, and they're just like, I don't think we have those sizes. And so I know, I'm pretty confident if we got them, he would wear them. And I mean, he's 2 for 2. He's literally never not made an Elam ender in a game he's played. So, yeah. Hopefully he keeps on going.
Our friends in Fort Wayne, Garrett, sent me a text this morning, and he has a pair of 18 Pumas that one of his guys didn't have, and he was trying to get them to us. And so whether he ships them to us or Puma makes it right, I think Jake would love to wear those out there.
I think what should happen is if Jake makes an Elam ender, he should get $3,000, but if not, he gets none. Like, just make it basically triple or nothing. Like, if he hits one, he gets it. So let's look at I want to look at the stats a little bit here. I don't want to spend too much time with this because we're gonna do a whole analysis. Let's talk a little bit about your team actually, because this is a pretty interesting roster, and we're gonna go into the analysis here. Me and Charge did a longer thing when we excuse you guys to go party in Philadelphia and enjoy your night in the city of brotherly love. But one thing, look at this, is the green is the things that are positive, and the yellow is the things that might be a somewhat question. And we're talking about two things going on right now: is the just balanced scoring. I mean, you've got like 6 guys putting up numbers and a very reasonable thing, and the hot shooting. So first of all, how are you guys going to able to keep shooting this scorching percentage from 3? Is it shot selection? Is it luck? Is there a question about reversion to the mean? Like, how are you guys getting these kind of looks?
I mean, I'd say just off the rip, like, I got to give a huge shout out to our coaching staff. Jordan Sternkamp, obviously the head coach, Zach Hopp, assistant, Jacob Fries, also another assistant we have on staff. Like, we are so prepared. We go through so much in practice to make sure these guys know where to be, where to move the ball. And it's really showing in the games. It's getting these guys lots of open looks. And these dudes are pros. And Ryan Taylor, Anthony Clemens, like, we already think they're some of the best shooters in this thing. But when they're wide open, they're usually going to go in. And so our coaching staff, I think, is the biggest reason we've been able to get so many open threes and convert on those.
Another thing to add, I think, just unselfishness. So you watch some of our games, there's multiple ball reversals all the way around the perimeter for the 4th guy getting a 3 in the corner. And so that just, again, speaks to the group we have, the willingness to make the extra pass, make the right play. No one really cares who scores, and I think it's evident when you look at the stat sheet there.
Yeah, and I think the thing that sticks out here is just really the depth. Hayner talked about the scoring depth, but when you look at some of the guys coming off the bench, and you got Terrell Brown, Nate Roberts brings some amazing energy. Mike Ertl played 4 minutes last night, and he was so tenacious.
And then we lose Charge for some reason. Let's bring him back. What happened here? What happened? Charge, you're back. Go back a couple seconds.
I'm still here. Oh, yeah, I was just talking about how deep this team is. So you highlighted the points per game and all that good stuff. But this team is just so deep. I mean, when you look at people like Terrell Brown, who shown in the last game, and Nate Roberts, good energy. Michael Ertl only played 4 minutes in that game, but he was tenacious, getting it after that defense, open looks. I mean, just everyone top to bottom on this team is phenomenal. And, it's one of those ones. It's been – tell me how fun it was kind of clearing out that Indiana region. So you took out All Good Dogs, Assembly Ball. So those were kind of the gate. And, TBT strives on alumni success. And you guys have knocked out 4 alumni teams. So tell me about how good that felt clearing out Indiana and kind of, standing up for the non-alum teams.
Yeah, it feels good. Feels good for sure. To kind of go through this, and if we win it all, run through 6 alumni teams would kind of be exactly how we want to do it. Funny enough, in our 11 years, we had never played an alumni team at home. And to kind of get 2 back-to-back with Butler and Indiana was super, super cool to play in front of those fans in a hostile environment. And especially in the Indiana game when we kind of collapsed but still survived, like, the crowd was super, super loud. And at the end of the day, like, we got the dub. That's all that matters. You just got to survive and advance in this thing. And so it's been awesome to beat the 4 alumni teams. Like, we'll just play whoever's in front of us, but we definitely feel like we've got a chip on our shoulder, being a non-alumni team, and just like for a lot of these smaller teams that are struggling, like, we kind of want to be like, hey, you can still do it if you like put in the work and try really, really hard. So it's felt really good getting those wins over those teams.
Yeah, so talk about that a little bit too, with the sort of like the everyman sort of team thing. It's been 11 years. This is pretty interesting. So when you're recruiting the players, like, what is your pitch? Because you guys have been doing this for a long time. How do you get the quality of players you're getting?
Jake, I'll go on that one, I guess. Really, it's just trying to build a relationship with the guys, right? And so you try to get to know them. You have some familiarity with maybe one of their teammates in the past, and that can maybe vouch for you. And so, having done this as long as we've had hundreds of players that have played for us, and so there's 1 or 2 degrees of separation to get to most of these guys. The basketball world's pretty small, especially internationally. And so, even like Tyler Kane, who you see on the roster there, we reached out to him right away. He looked up and saw that JP McCura played for us once. He called JP. He's like, "Hey, who's Everline Drive? Who's Matt and Jake? Like, are they any good?" And JP said a ton of great things about us. And he's like, "That's all I needed to hear." And so I think part of it is just, the longevity of how long we've been doing this. We've been fortunate enough to meet a lot of really good people. And then our job has always been just to try to treat our players the best we can to make a good impression on them, because you never know how that could come around and reap rewards in the back end. So nothing more, I guess, than just a lot of conversations, a lot of communication, and trying to pitch them on, we're going to take really good care of you and hopefully put you in the best position to have a chance to win.
Yeah, absolutely. Hayner, typing away there. You're going hard on the keyboard. Anything else for the guys from Everline? I am tapped out. I'm excited to see him play in the next round in Philadelphia, taking on the Houston Cougars. Anything else you want to cover?
Yeah, I do, you lazy bastard. We have more to talk about. You're letting these guys go. Let them go in a minute, though. So I want to look a little bit at your opponents.
You told me you said 10 minutes, so I was trying to be respectful of the time frame you gave me.
Yeah.
Keep going. Keep talking.
You know I'm not that organized. Our producer's an idiot. All right. So why don't I talk a little bit about the challenge you guys face, and we'll get more detail, but I'll ask you guys a couple quick questions. So first of all, Forever Cougs, really tough matchup. Not a great shooting team, but I'm looking at these rebounding numbers. How important is it going to be for you guys to keep, especially for Stone and Stevens, to keep these guys off the glass?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be huge. I mean, rebounding's been something that, even going into last game, we knew Penn State was a really good rebounding team, and they did out rebound us, but we think we're kind of so deep and we can beat you in so many different ways that, like, even if we do get beat on the boards, we can still beat you in other ways. And while we still have to really dive into Houston, we saw firsthand after our game just how good they can be, and so we're certainly not taking this lightly, because we thought Colorado was going to be a really tough challenge if they won, and Houston really handled them. So they're playing as good as they could be right now.
Yeah, I mean, I want to stay here a little bit because John Harrow, who's a really good player, did actually get a lot of rebounds early on, and it seemed like the depth wore them down. In fact, they mentioned numerous times on the telecast or the TV showing last night about the Everline depth. That was mentioned by John Phantom multiple times in the comebacks. You guys shot like 60% in the first quarter, and we're still down 8 points or some nonsense. Like, it was nuts. Like, they literally could not miss a shot for a solid 16 minutes of any kind. And at the half, they make that absolute prayer. I mean, it was not – you had no luck in the first half, and you were able to wear them down. So, Matt, how is the depth going to be a big help against a physical Cougs team?
No, I mean, watching that game last night, I think that's one of the things that jumped out is they have a ton of depth. They have a ton of physicality and incredible defense. And so they're going to be in our grill. And so I think if we can just keep putting fresh people out there and keeping our guys fresh, that certainly will help. But going back to the rebounding thing, I mean, that's probably the top of the list of to-dos for us to have a good game tomorrow. We've got to, or in 2 days, we've got to take care of business on the glass, box out, work hard, all the things that sound easy, but it's kind of a mental approach, I suppose. So I know coaches will be pushing that and preaching that hard tomorrow in practice.
Yeah, the one thing that stood out with your guys' team is your ability to shut down their top scorers. So obviously, the first game, all the eyes were on Barford. Second game on Yogi, and then Sessoms. You had one game in between there. I can't remember who that was, Butler, but Sessoms. You kept it well under his TBT average, and so you guys have had good success shutting down the top scorer. So Rob Gray, though, if you watched that game the other night, I'm sure you guys were all in the arena, was just out of his mind. So how confident are you that what you've done in the first 4 games translates to stopping Rob Gray?
Yeah, well, I mean, the players like this, Rob Gray, Yogi, Sessoms, like, at the end of the day, like, you can only control them so much or limit them so much. Like, they're going to get theirs, and so it's really just about not stopping them completely, but, like, tiring them out and trying to get the ball out of their hands. Sessoms had a very good game against us. Obviously, in the second half, we were able to slow him down a little bit, but we feel we have a lot of good defenders on the team, from Terrell Brown to Ryan Taylor, Anthony Clemens. It really just comes back to our depth. I think we have a lot of different looks we can throw, and hopefully that'll be enough to knock Rob or whoever else may be cooking off their game and allow us to make the championship.
Yeah. I mean, as a Memphis fan, like, Houston tortured Memphis for years. They did it the same way. They would shoot like 28% and turn it over 15 times, but then just physically make the game a complete and utter fist fight. So it'll be really interesting to see if your hot shooting and team play can overcome what will obviously be an absolute brawl. 7 p.m. Friday night. You guys ready?
Locked in.
Locked in. All right. Well, gentlemen, it's always a pleasure. We have Jake Hirschman and Matt Mitchell of Epperline Drive. Charge, show the shirt again real quick. Because we are obviously impartial, and we would never pick sides in a TBT game because as journalist types, we would never, ever, ever play favorites in this event. Why would we do that? Never, never, never. Gentlemen, thanks for swinging by, and I'll see you Friday at the event.
See you.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Jake, take care, man. See ya.
Never, ever, ever pick sides.
No.
And if you believe that, go ahead.
Yeah, no. Those guys, they've been a pleasure to watch all tournament long, and easy to pull for. So it's I wouldn't call David versus Goliath because they've had their great teams in the past. But when you look at the impact of the alumni teams that have had on the TBT this year, and then Everline overcoming the adversity, we talked about this off line, and if Jake and Matt under any circumstance aren't GMs of the year again for the second time, I would be baffled. Everything else kind of was laid out. La Familia, obviously, big NIL money, NIL money. Have had a lot going on there. Carmen's, Houston, so those guys had a lot of good favor for these guys to battle. So just want to put that out there. GMs of the year, Jake, Matt, and that keeps Vinny's streak going. Anytime he's on a team, apparently gets the GMs of the year rolling with him. So just a fun time.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting too, because the reality is, like, they've done a lot, and they were really seriously considering not being in this event. It sounded like they were really close to not entering. I just saw, are you drinking a tub of soda? What the hell was that? Is that from Panera?
It's from Panera. It's like a mini tub, a large size soda.
That's larger than my first apartment.
Pretty much, yeah. You're in the city there, but then throwing more curveballs than Everline, staying on track. They had a short notice, travel off to Houston, do some more fundraising. So I mean, everything they was throwing at these guys this year has been insane, and to see them where they're at today is just absolutely nuts.
So I want to stay on the Panera thing real fast because I run a loose ship and I don't give a damn. Formerly, it was founded in St. Louis, and it was known as the St. Louis Bread Co. It was opened about a mile from my alma mater, Washington University in St. Louis. Fun fact.
There you go. All right.
Yeah, that's why I care. Okay, that's pretty useless. Okay, let's get into our deck. Let's get into the actual analysis now that our guests are gone. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how we got here. So we had 8. Now we're down to our final few. Eberline, the 6 versus 2, the Cougs. We kind of soft previewed that a bit. And the nightcap on Friday will be number 3, Carmen's, your Dayton champs, versus La Familia, which won the spit-worthy grudge match that was the Kentucky Bluegrass State Championship. By the way, the guy spinning the guy, like, that was kind of crummy, but like he apologized, and there's a lot of passion in basketball, so I would just kind of move off it. I do want to say personally, as a guy who's went to a bunch of these regions, I went to 3 of them. As a guy who also put a bounty on Louisville, and I will be paying that. La Familia is getting whiskey from me this week. I'm working out how to get them the whiskey in Philly. I could not be more impressed with all the teams I saw, especially the Ville. They gave a first-class thing. I was really proud as a Memphis fan, a team I've always rooted against to show up that well. So a lot of respect to her, and that was a fantastic venue for TBT, and it was just a wonderful game. How was it cool to have them double the attendance record in that game?
Yeah, that's just absolutely crazy. So you go from, I think the number was 7,202 to 13,500 or something like that. That's what TBT's been pushing for, striving for a lot of years, and it's just great for TBT fans. It's great, for the television audiences, the alumni bases, and they just hit a home run there, absolute home run. So couldn't ask for anything more. So I'm assuming their format this year has been amazing. That will we'll see more of that in the future because that formula definitely worked, and if those teams come in strong, then it's going to be great.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting because I really do wonder if the DAC's going to be too small for this, because I was there last year and I'll be there again Friday and Sunday. They didn't sell out last year, but with like two really brand name fan bases in Ohio State and La Familia, I would be surprised if they don't have a seating problem. Like I think it might be too small a venue for this. Like, do you think they might actually pack the place?
It should be close. I mean, Kentucky and Carmen's is not, too far. I mean, it's a drive, but I mean, reasonable drive. I think if they would have gotten Happy Valley past Everline, then I think you're definitely looking at, a sellout. So I think it's going to fill up. I wasn't there last year. Obviously, won't be there this year. So we'll have to count on your eyes on. I know. One of these days I'll get to Philadelphia, but they should just put the regional final, the finals, everything in Butler. That only makes sense in my eyes. I think it's going to be close because it's just like I said, with the exception, Houston. Obviously, that's a long haul. But Carmen's and La Familia should be able to represent well there.
Well, I think Houston also is a slightly smaller fan base, and much like Memphis or some of these other cities teams, it's an urban fan base. Like, I mean that actually in the city. I don't mean anything besides being in the city. It's a commuter school. So like teams like Memphis, teams like Cincinnati, teams like Houston have great fan bases, but they're more regionally based. They don't usually, because they're in-state commuter schools, most of the people are from those cities. So they don't draw as well on the road as some of these teams. So I'd be surprised if Cougs have a large fan base in attendance. But again, I'd love to be wrong. It should be pretty interesting. So we soft previewed the first game. We'll go into a little bit more detail. So the first semifinal will be number 6 Everline versus number 2 Cougs. And looking at these stats charts, first of all, you see a big difference in how they play. It's almost 10 points a game, scored more for Everline. They like to get up and down. They're faster. The Cougs don't shoot very well. They're shooting 28% from 3, only shooting 70% from the line. But they are actually plus 12 or plus 11 rebounding to Everline. So is this going to be a battle of who can set pace? Like if it's a track meet, the drive win, and if it's a street fight, the Cougs probably win. Is that what's going to come down to, a battle of wills?
Yeah, I mean that's a tough call. I mean, to your point, everyone's got to kind of play their game, and it just as the game goes on. But it's just interesting. It's scary part is if Houston gets hot. We talked about Rob Gray. We talked we were talking about flying about some of their other 3-point shooters, but Chauncey Jones can get hot at any time. But that plus 12 rebounding really stands out, and a lot of that was prior to Fabian White getting on scene, and so that really will be the battle for them. So guys like Jake Stevens, Nate Roberts really need to step up and control the boards up there.
Fabian White's a beast. Fabian White is an absolute beast. So we'll talk about Everline first real quick, and we'll actually bring in Nick saying Everline looks to have good depth. They mentioned it again a lot on the telecast. Nick, you're right. They did mention that a lot on the telecast. They've got a really deep team. They play a lot of guys. You can see that from like the point distribution. They have a very balanced scoring attack. You see these shooting percentages again. Clemens is on a tournament-long heater. He's hoisting 6.5 a game. He's making half of them. You're getting Stevens, who's a great ad late, who's got 2 straight winners in the Elam ending. It's only 2 games he's played. And, of course, Ryan Taylor's also stroking it. So all these guys are shooting really well. Even Stone and Goodwin, who aren't shooting as well, are still credible. So you can actually do 5 out and really start to make the shooting work. So first of all, Charge, is the hot shooting going to be able to continue against a team as physical as the Cougs?
Yeah, that was the thing that really stood out in the Cougars game against Colorado. I mean, these guys were just fast. They were physical. Just defensively, were getting after it. I mean, Colorado could not get a good open look. Full disclosure, I turned the game off at halftime because I had to get some work done for my day job. It was getting to be such a beat, but I don't even know if they got any good looks in that game. It was bad. It was just, amazing. So I think that's the story here is, how is Houston really that good defensively? And if they are, that's going to be a tough road for anybody. So if they can bring that same energy, they had the home court behind them, which obviously helps. But if they can bring that same energy into Philadelphia, then I think this Everline drive team has to really kind of button down and protect the ball and just really play through that. But they were solid. But it's crazy to look at those top 5. I mean, 3-pointers, all over 35%. And the other thing that sticks out, these are great two-way players, though. You got Clemens, 1.8 steals per game, Goodwin, 1.5. So there's just a lot of good things going on here. So the same thing Houston can do to them, we can flip the script and say the same thing about Eberline at this point.
I'm just realizing our stat intern mixed up the A and M for the shots. The field goal attempts and field goal made actually is in error on the sheet, so reversed, because we're going to have to fire the intern again. What a moron that guy is. Dear God, we're going to have to fire him. Anyway, though, yeah, I mean, the only thing that's interesting, we used yellow on the pages to kind of sort of talk about the sort of trouble spots. And there's not only yellow on this page, and the only yellow we're showing is Tyler Stone's rebounding. And Knox not rebounding well. He's rebounding fine. It's just they're not rebounding a lot as a team. And it's probably because they're not missing. They're just not missing shots. I mean, if you're shooting 50% from the field and you're shooting like 50% from three, there's not a lot of boards to be had. So the offensive rebounding numbers looks rather anemic, but they look anemic because they're not missing. So is that going to help neutralize some of the advantage Houston might have on the boards?
Obviously remains to be seen. I'd just be making some up at this point, but
it's never stopped me before.
Yeah, obviously the logic sticks. Obviously the rebounding is a factor of the shooting, but it's you kind of throw all that out the window when it comes time Friday night and just get it on.
Yeah, I mean, it should be a lot of fun. And just how I got here, a close game against Team Arkansas, an absolute smacking of all good dogs. What looked like a smacking till Assembly Ball till they used the Elam to just stop playing and looking at plane tickets, I suppose. That was a disaster almost. And then, of course, Happy Valley Hoopers was a really interesting game because they were down almost the entire first half, and then the depth really carried them through. So this has been a team that's won close, won in a butt kicking, had to come back, been a lead, had leads come and go. They've played every conceivable scenario and type of TBT game in their four. So does that varied experience mean they're both tested and loose probably, like they're kind of ready to go?
Yeah, like I said, these teams are just very, very similar. So obviously the Cougs had some of the same impacts. They came back and beat once a Bronco who had that just colossal meltdown in the Elam ending, and just blew out Colorado, which is kind of a bummer. I might have won some decent money if Colorado kept going, but hey, that was a fun ride watching those guys move along the tournament. So, I mean, the more I look at this, and kind of, Hayner did a great job getting all these stats together, so I'll take no credit for that. But these teams are more evenly matched, and I think more similar in kind of what they've been through and circumstances than different. So it's going to be a great matchup.
Yeah, definitely. Let's get into their opponent too a little bit. I want to talk about the Cougs and the thing is, there's a lot more yellow on this page. The Cougs are what the Cougs are. And if you're a Memphis fan like me, you know how Houston wants to play. They want to turn everything into an MMA match. They're incredibly physical. They fight their asses off. But only one guy scoring double digits. Rob Gray is hoisting 16 shots a game. Everybody else is hoisting less than 8, almost 7. So this is a thing where one guy is getting a usage thing off the top of the charts, which is kind of crazy. He's got a negative assist to turnover ratio, probably because his usage rate is so high. Having said that, though, I mean, I want to talk about that offensive rebound numbers. You're getting 2 a game out of Frazier, 3 out of Gorman. You're getting a bunch out of some other guys. Fabian White, the stats are a little off because he only played 1 game. That seems to be a website issue they have. So we copied the sites off the website, so there's a couple of weird, freakish things in there. But Fabian White actually has more rebounds than that. And he was an absolute beast in the game against Team Colorado. So, I mean, the shooting is just down. You got 3 guys shooting 25 or less who are getting 3+ shots a game. But it doesn't really matter if you miss, but you'll get your own misses. That's been the Houston MO under Sampson. It's been that way for the last decade. They took the ball up and they just go get it. So is being able to win ugly a great TBT skill?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a skill, but I'm sure all these teams, obviously the motto, win in advance, but I'm sure none of these teams want to win ugly. But I mean, it's I think underneath that winning ugly is the scrappiness, the tenaciousness of the teams, don't give up kind of attitude, and that's what you kind of see with these guys because the once a Bronco won. I didn't watch the Challenge ALS game at all, but I don't know how far down they were in that game. But Challenge ALS obviously ended up losing that in the game. But I remember looking one time and I'm like, oh, ALS has this game, they're done, and so you see where they are now. So so definitely not a skill, but scrappy as could be. But same thing, just a lot of depth. So even though they're just a little bit off, kind of what Everline is with 5 guys in double digits. So these guys are right around here, but a little more balanced rebounding. Fabian White's back. Chandre Jones is a charge guy. He will not shoot 25% in the game Friday night. I can promise you that. So it's just this is going to be an amazing matchup.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. I mean, I really, I think this will be really a great appetizer for the evening's main event. All right, Charge, make a pick. What do you think, Eberline or the Cougs?
Yeah, no, this is one of these ones. I wish I would have got into Everline a little earlier in the bracket, but we had Jake and Matt on, and these guys were teetering on not being in the tournament. I did not believe that they would be able to, get these guys into practice with 1 day's notice, be ready to take on a tough Team Arkansas team, and then run through an entire alumni base out there in Indiana. And so I think they're just a little more proven, a little more experienced, and I think they're going to continue to roll and take out Houston in this game Friday night.
So we are impartial. We don't pick sides, but we don't pick sides. We are impartial, but I think this will be a really good game. I think this will be one where the style does matter. If whichever team plays their game and forces the other team to play their game will win. I think Eberline's probably a little better team. I think they're a little more tested. My one concern, and I think the Drive can win this. My one concern that I think the Cougs might win is it's always easier to make a game ugly than it is to get out and run. Like, and every one of Eberline's wins, they've been the better team. They've had a co-conspirator. Happy Valley wanted to run with them. Assembly Ball turned it over a few times. Butler wanted to play loose. Everybody's wanted to get in a track meet with them. They always tried to slow them down. The Cougs live to punch people. That's their entire ethos as a university, as a college basketball team. So I think if the Drive play their game, they're going to win. But I'm a little concerned the Cougs will have an easier time making it ugly than the Drive will making a track meet. It's just going to be a battle of styles. If it gets ugly, the Cougs win this in a walk.
So who you locking into? So I heard maybe this team, maybe that team. Who you locking into?
Oh, you're going to call me on my bullshit? This is what you're going to do? Yeah. You know what? Damn it. I don't want – I would love to see our guys win, but I have a feeling the Cougs are going to pull this off, only just out of pure cussedness. And honestly, I mean, we don't pick sides. We do not do that. But but yeah, I think the Cougs might win this just by making this ugly. It's easier to make a game ugly than it is to make it pretty. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see.
Like I said, the more we broke it down, the more similar these teams are. I just think Everline's very well coached as well.
I agree. I mean, this is a real coin flip. This is a real coin flip game. Unlike the other one, I think it's a clear favorite in the other game. I mean, I don't think it's much of a question who the favorite is. This is much more of a coin flip to me.
Yep, I agree. So
I'll take the Cougs to the coin flip. You got the Drive?
Yeah, I got Everline all the way.
Okay, that makes sense. And I would never wear my Everline shirt to Press to an event. I would never do that. That's just unethical. Okay. Anyway, let's talk about the nightcap. This is the last game of the first two. Number 3, Carmen's Crew, the former champion Ohio State alum, versus number 2, La Familia, who I will be delivering a bottle of whiskey because they did knock out the Ville, getting the annual bounty. So they will have a bottle of whiskey in their hands Friday from yours truly for knocking out the Ville. And again, congrats to the Ville for a wonderful run. Ridiculous, and that Freedom Hall crowd were everything to be advertised. It was a great pleasure to watch what was one of the great venues in TBT really take hold. But that was then, this is now. So La Familia and Carmen's Crew, these stats tell the exact same story. They're within everything. The points are the same. The shooting's about the same, around 45%. They're both shooting a respectable 36, 37 from three. They're both shooting 75% or so from free throw line. A few more rebounds by Carmen's, but I mean, that might just be because they're missing a couple of shots. Like, this is basically statistically a fairly even matchup until you dig deeper. Charge, you were actually got to see Carmen's Crew when you went to Dayton, correct?
Yeah, no, I got to see Carmen's crew in an absolute blowout against, I think it was Purple Hearts, and that's the thing that we'll talk about a little more as we get into the stats. Is Carmen's crew is extremely, extremely deep. Obviously, the game against Heartfire, that was a dogfight, but they've been able to kind of not relax, but they've been able to use their depth. They've been able to pull in a lot of their bench. Solinger hasn't had to play a lot of minutes, and it's just one of those teams. I think their depth is going to be very favorable in this matchup. La Familia, and when we get to them, they are not a deep team at all, and very concerned with them.
You don't need depth if you got flamethrowers. So when we both did Indy, you got to go to Dayton. I was in the Kentucky Regional. I did both the Louisville and Lexington ones. I was supposed to see La Familia one more time, but Delta decided to crash the entire internet. Thanks, crowdsource or strike or whoever you idiots are. So I missed the entire first day of TBT. Thanks again, guys. That was a blast having no, I'm kidding. I sound bitter. The point being is I got to see La Familia twice. I got to see them play a couple games, and oh my God, are they good. That was a very, very scary team. Every game they were in, it was kind of close until it absolutely wasn't. And we're going to know how that happened in just a minute. Let's start with Carmen's crew real quick. So, again, the green on the slides is the more positive. The yellow is a little more the negative. We'll talk about those mean. And how they got here, again, that Purple Hearts win, which was not at all competitive. They beat the Red Scare in a relatively close competitive game. Heartfire was a very close game. They could have lost that if Heartfire played the Elam a little better. And then take over BC, the score was much worse than that. It was 90-74, but at one point, I think they were up, 87 points or something. It was a bloodshed. But this is they have 21 TBT wins. They're a former champion. They are by far the most decorated of the teams left. And you got to think the entire team, first of all, Charge, what I'm looking at is you got 5 guys between 11 and 9 points. How much does the balanced scoring help them?
Yeah, I mean, that's what's going to make the difference in this game, I think. Obviously, they're going to need to lean a little bit heavier in this matchup on guys like Jared Solinger and Caleb Weston. But I think it got their guys battle tested. And, guys like Jamel Morris and Keyshawn Woods have been unbelievable in limited minutes for those guys, just hitting big shots coming up big, and then from there, Bradford's been just a tremendous pickup for these guys, and so I don't think we've even seen their best ball yet. I think
we haven't had to. We haven't had to.
Yeah, for the most part, and I think there's another gear here, and I think these guys are really gonna turn it on and really give La Familia a test.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that, but I'll tell you one thing I do like is the scoring is here. But I find it interesting, and Solinger and Weston are both very good players. So, again, we're splicing hairs, and keep in mind, we're talking limited sample sizes. So when people say a stat's a negative, we're not sitting there going, these guys suck. Anything but. Sellinger's a champion. Caleb Weston's a beast. So we're not criticizing his players. They're amazing. Let's get out of the way. But they might be doing a little too much. They both have over 2 turnovers a game. They have negative assist-to-turnover ratios, which is fine. They're both bigs. They're not supposed to be ball handlers. But at the same time, they're both shooting 41% or under, and they're launching a ton of threes. So that shooting percentage really has to improve on both Weston and Solinger's part to abuse some of this inside. They're going to need better interior scoring from Carmen's crew, and I don't know if they're going to get it against the size that La Familia has. I mean, again, Weston and Solinger are amazing, but these numbers seem to indicate that a guy like Willie Cauley-Stein will be able to affect their shots. Are these numbers just small sample sizes, and do you expect Weston and Solinger to really show up?
I think Solinger especially, I think he's going to go to work. I mean, this guy's in great shape, playing coming off of Puerto Rico, China recently. Solinger I think he's going to be the X factor here. So what you see on paper there, 9 and 8-3 is, for him, it's like, that's all right. But I think he's going to be the one, and I don't think he's going to have much trouble with Willie Cauley-Stein at all. It's going to be a really, really good matchup, but Solinger is going to be the difference maker in this game and just really dominate. Easily 20 and 10 going on.
I mean, it's possible. I mean, Solinger, and the thing is, the reason I highlight these stats is these are not normal stat lines for Solinger or Weston. They're both guys who are absolute killers. So seeing them shoot this percentage in early games, almost it's like they're knocking the rust off. They're getting ready for this moment almost. It's almost more like they're just trying to get to this point, and now they're going to come out. So I definitely could see that being possible. One thing I do want to call attention to is Morris and Bradford are shooting fine. I mean, they're not shooting great or poorly. Jamal Morris is actually stroking the three really well. He's only almost 3 a game, which is a huge amount of scoring. But like the ball control out of your guards, they're averaging a combined 6 assists off only one turnover, 6 to 1.1 if you combine their stat lines. So the ball control for Carmen's crew is they're not beating themselves, which is a key skill in TBT. Just like rebounding and winning ugly is a big part of winning in TBT. If you're 6 to 1 assist to ratio out of your guards, you're going to be in a game because you're not going to beat yourself. So is that what you saw when you watched them? You see a team that was playing composed professional basketball.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I said, it was a little different because it was Purple Hearts and near 40-point blowout. So it's hard to kind of gauge there. But they, like I said, they took the game serious. They started quick, finished on a strong note, and that's what you're going to get from them. And we haven't talked about Eric Neal yet, who's played good but not great so far in the TBT. And this is a guy that can turn it on both facilitating and scoring at any given moment. So I think there's just guys on this team who they played good, but there's a next level that they haven't quite hit yet, and they'll be ready for the game. They're no strangers to the Final Four or winning championships.
Yeah, and it's funny because we didn't really talk about Eric Neal. Eric Neal, he's a great player. We didn't talk about Jeff Gibbs, the timeless wonder who's my age, who's still putting up buckets. I mean, we didn't talk about the depth. This is a very deep team, which will help them because you did mention one Achilles heel for La Familia, which we'll get to them now. They are a little thin. They're a slightly smaller roster. So how did La Familia get here besides basically destroying everybody in Kentucky? They destroyed the Ballers. They destroyed the Knopf. They destroyed Heard That in a manner that was convincing. And they were up most of the game on the Ville, and the Ville only made it close late with some really tough plays for Smith. They haven't really been tested yet. I mean, they haven't even been in a game where they've only had game pressure late in the game by the Ville for a few minutes. They've probably been under pressure. I watched the Knopf game. They were in pressure in the first half, but it's first half. They were in a close game in the first half, and the Ville had them game pressure for a couple minutes. They've probably been under actual game pressure 3 minutes so far this entire TBT. They've been clearly the most dominant force in TBT that has survived this point, in my opinion. And they were absolutely infuriatingly scary to watch in person. They were just disturbingly scary. But Charge, looking at this, you mentioned the depth. The depth really does concern you here, does it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I know this all too personally right now. Our fantasy league, I picked the right teams. I think I did a really nice job picking the right teams, but unfortunately, I was focused on some other players, and people were getting high on La Familia. So you figure you start to go to 6th or 7th guy on a team, but I got Kellen Grady and James Young who have done nothing for me in this entire TBT, or my fantasy squad would look a little bit better. Yes, everyone cares about my fantasy team, But so that's just they're not getting productivity there. I mean, these guys are good players. I think they can come back, but if they're not all clicking, you saw a little bit of the struggle in the first half. The Harrison started out really slow. If they didn't come through towards the end of that Bill game, this could be a totally different ball game with it. But I mean, they're really only going 6 deep, and that's typically not a problem. But some of these guys are not. Spring chickens. And so I think a team like Carmen's crew, they're a little on the older side, but when you can go 10 deep, and, if Carmen's crew gets Kyle Young back, I'm not sure why he wasn't able to play last game, but Kyle Young, he was cooking in Dayton, and just a lot of energy. And so a guy like that could pose a big problem for him as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, I do understand the depth things. They've only played Grady Young a few minutes, spot minutes to give people as a breather, and that might be contributing to a few of the sort of trouble marks you see, because you see a very dominant statistical profile in this matchup. Kareem Cantor has been insane, like absolutely insane. 19 a game. He probably is so far. I think it's fair to say he might be the first team TBT at this point, possibly the MVP. Would he probably be the MVP at this point?
I think it's gonna. I threw that on Twitter last night, late at night, and I think Rob Gray obviously is he's the only person I put as a lock on the All TBT team, because a lot of the teams who are still playing have had just really good balanced scoring. So Kareem Cantor was great in the early rounds, but if you get Nate Sestina getting hot, in these later rounds, that's going to speak volumes. So when the games got big, the games were on the line. The Sestina stands up. Bledsoe's been pretty consistent across the board. So it's just a lot of guys, and then the same thing with Eberline. They got Clemens and Goodwin and Stone have been great, and then Carmen's Crew's the wild card. They were kind of like Heartfire, where they don't really have a guy putting up big numbers. So I think the all TBT team is still very much in flux, with the exception of Rob Gray at this point. But I think if La Familia rolls and Cantor continues to put up 18 points a game or 10 rebounds, double doubles, then I think he's going to be right up there at the top. He got it started, but we'll see how these last two games play out.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. Go ahead. No, but Cantor definitely has been pretty dominant. He's been basically living at the line too. He's shooting 9 free throws a game, which is pretty hard to do in a 36-minute game. And he's getting almost 3 offensive rebounds a game, cleaning up some messes. So the only things you're seeing is possibly because there's such a high minute load. But as good as Bledsoe's been, and Bledsoe's been everything he asked for, he's been a bucket. He treated some very good TBT players like traffic cones in earlier rounds. There's at least 2 players who are very good, who he made look like they weren't even on the court defensively. But he is only shooting sub 40 from the field. He has 4 turnovers a game. That is probably because he is a trigger man on every possession almost, unless they're giving the ball to one of the Harrisons, especially Andrew. So I am wondering if the secret of this game is to try to let Harrison be the trigger man and let Eric Bledsoe work a little more off the ball to be more of a finisher. I do wonder if that's how you unlock this. But I do think it's going to be interesting because it's going to be a great inside presence. The matchup of Willie Cauley-Stein and Cantor against Wesson and against Sullinger, I think that's primetime television. It's at the right time. Do you see an advantage either way in that matchup?
Yeah, like I said, I'm just real high on Sullinger right now. Like I said, Weston hasn't performed his best, but I think this is a game where Sullinger just unlocks it all and just goes off. So I'm giving advantage Carmen's on the down low.
Okay, well, we're just going to disagree. So I'll tell you one thing. You can say about what's supposed to happen or how. And Sullinger and Weston are great. So I'm not saying they're not good, but I'm telling you, you're saying they're going to show up. Cantor and Willie Cauley-Stein have shown up. They've already been doing this. So I'm going to go with the guys who are actually just showing it currently. And I think that's going to be really crazy. The thing I think is nuts, too, is Willie Cauley-Stein recasting himself as a 7-foot-tall Steph Curry in TBT is absurd. The man has already hit 4 triples in TBT, and he hit 6 in his entire NBA career. I find the whole thing vaguely amusing at least. But at the same time, he can't hit free throws. He's shooting 40% from the line. He's actually shooting a higher percentage from 3 than the free throw line, which is disturbing to me. So I am wondering, if they can control the ball and they can keep Sullinger and Weston off the boards, I think it's a pretty clear favorite. Talk to me about how Nate Sestina has been the X factor in this entire series. Then.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen him live except for the last game, but man, I tell you, what a good energy guy. Obviously, the talent he brings to the team, and that's the great photos and hitting the crowd. I mean, he was chirping up a storm. I don't know what was said. I'm sure it was all good fun banter, but I mean, he is just one of those guys that looks like a great teammate. Just gonna bring the energy. Obviously playing in Philly, you may not have that same crowd, but the L's down was just fun and just a scrappy guy, just a winner, and the way he shoots. I mean, that was just incredible against DeVille.
Yeah, I don't think you need a lot of depth. The only way this becomes a problem, and I will say this is how Carmen's Crew will win if they win. They're going to get inside and they're going to get their bigs in foul trouble because there is a depth thing where they don't have the same depth. If Sullinger and Weston can start banging and get Stein or Cantor or Sestina in trouble, because keep in mind, they all had 4+ fouls against the Ville. They almost got in trouble against a team that doesn't have that kind of inside presence. As good as Harrell is their main guy. He's more of a face-up, not a post guy. He's more of a guy who comes off cuts, right? So having guys like Sullinger and Weston who are going to be much more big body as opposed to a flex big like Harrell could get them in trouble. I mean, as good as Cauley-Stein is, he's not as heavy as a guy like Sullinger. Sullinger can body him a little. I could see a scenario where they get Stein, they get Cantor in a little bit of foul trouble, and then you have a completely different situation. So In the narrow path where I think Carmen's crew wins, it comes with being bully balls. That's what's going to happen. They got to make this a Big Ten matchup. And the last thing I want to mention is just Cecina he was I think if you talk about the X factor of the tournament, not first team, but the guy who's been the biggest sort of X factor, he's got to be it. And shooting that way with that kind of size is a cheat code. If you're like a big 6-footer, 6-7-footer, you're a big man, and you can stroke it from 27. That's an absolute cheat code at this level. Like that's a great way to get open shots. So, Charge, what do you think? You got Carmen's?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna roll with Carmen's, which La Familia. My initial reaction bracket, right from the beginning, I said La Familia is gonna win my official bracket that we posted. La Familia is gonna win. It's just something about Carmen's crew, and maybe it's just a gut, maybe it's a Ohio thing that I got to back the locals, but there's some bias coming in here somewhere. It's just I am not confident with the depth of. La Familia, to your point, if Carmen's gets any of those bigs in foul trouble, then they're going to be in the world of hurt. They don't have anyone that's going to come in and fill those roles for them. So I'm going to ride with Jamel Morris, Wesson. Bradford knows how to win this. Wesson, Sullinger, Neal. I mean, these guys are ready to go. So give it the edge to Carmen's on Friday night.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sorry you're wrong. I mean, it's just the way it is. But yeah, I would bet a mortgage payment if I was a betting person that Lafayette's going to win. Not because Carmen's can't, not because they're not a good team. Like they're definitely a great team, but I just don't see them stopping this team. They haven't been stopped yet. They took a very good Ville team and they smashed them. They took a really good Herd that team and embarrassed them. I just don't see it. I mean, like that's not to say Carmen's can't. And again, I'm an idiot. And when I say bet on a team, your first response should be to bet the other teams. I'm literally never right. Like if I pick you, you're screwed. So definitely, when I say Lafayette's going to win, you should go to BetMGM or FanDuel or whatever the hell you want and put a bank payment on the other team. But I think there's no way Lafayette loses this game. I think there's a 0% chance.
We shall see. We shall see. That's why we play the game. Final few, Philadelphia Friday night. We'll get it all sorted out.
Yeah. So, Charge, you're not making it to Philly to visit. Come on, why not?
Oh man, I was it was tough. I was highly considering it, especially if Everline and Colorado would have gotten to Philadelphia. I probably would have made it work. And then so someone who I thought may travel with me has plans this weekend, so I decided to stay home and watch from home. So I'll be tuned in, seeing what's going on in Philadelphia from the comfort of my living room chair. So hopefully another time, but it's been a fun cycle at TBT, and you'll get me up to date on all the happenings in Philadelphia.
Well, I'll get you up to date, but also we got one more live show to do. We're going to do a show Saturday to preview the final. We'll talk about what time to do it. We'll post it on Twitter and the usual thing, but we'll do it I'll either be doing it from the stadium if there's a shoot around, or I'll do it from the hotel in Philly with footage from the press conferences from Friday. So we're doing at least one more show, possibly two more this cycle, and I'll be courtside. So Charge will be working the accounts on Twitter from his Indiana base, and I'll be in the field in Philadelphia with my busted ankle, trying to hobble through the brotherly love.
Oh, that's right. So
yeah. I'm just sucking these down right now.
Old age.
I'm just literally just doing this with the thing. It's like I'm Slim Shady, basically, circa 2005. It's ridiculous. Okay, any final thoughts? So we can let people go to bed. Now let's keep talking.
No, I think we've covered it all. Just an amazing final few on tap here, and it's going to be a fun ride, and we'll see where it shakes out. So can't wait. Okay, Charge. Always fun. We got one more of these at least, maybe two, but it's always a pleasure. It's been a fun season having you around as my co-host. Okay, I'll talk to you soon, buddy. All right, have a good one.
Okay, this has been Charge and 100% ZoomTheTBT with our final few preview as we get to the end of the road. Take care, guys.
Hope you enjoyed listening to Zoom the TBT with Charge and Hainer. Subscribe to YouTube, follow on Twitter, and give us your money.